Today is 7th of August, and we come to another important sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 44, Culavedalla Sutta, a shorter series of questions and answers. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel sanctuary. Then the lay follower Visakha went to the nun, Dhammadina, and after paying homage to her, he sat down at one side and asked her, sorry for a moment, this Dhammadina is supposed to be an Arahan, and according to the, according to the commentaries, I don't know whether it's reliable or not, and this Visakha is supposed to be an Anagamin, third fruition Arya, and also the former husband of Dhammadina. So he sat down and asked her, Lady, identity is said. What is called identity by the Blessed One? This identity, the Pali word is Sakkaya. Friend Visakha, these 5 aggregates of attachment are called identity by the Blessed One. That is, the material form aggregate of clinging, of attachment, the feeling aggregate of attachment, the perception aggregate of perception of attachment, the volition aggregate of attachment, and the consciousness aggregate of attachment. These 5 aggregates of attachment are called identity by the Blessed One. Saying, good lady, the lay follower Visakha delighted and rejoiced in the nun Dhammadina's words. Then he asked her a further question. Lady, origin of identity is said. What is called the origin of identity by the Blessed One? Friend Visakha, it is craving which brings renewal of being, is accompanied by delight and lust, and delights in this and that, that is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for being, and craving for non-being. This is called the origin of identity by the Blessed One. Lady, cessation of identity is said. What is called the cessation of identity by the Blessed One? Friend Visakha, it is the remainderless fading away and ceasing, the giving up, relinquishing, letting go and rejecting of that same craving. This is called the cessation of identity by the Blessed One. Lady, the way leading to the cessation of identity, is said. What is called the way leading to the cessation of identity by the Blessed One? Friend Visakha, it is just this noble eightfold path, that is, right view, right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right recollection, and right concentration. Lady, is that attachment the same as these 5 aggregates of attachment? Or is the attachment something apart from the 5 aggregates of attachment? Friend Visakha, that attachment is neither the same as these 5 aggregates of attachment, nor is attachment something apart from the 5 aggregates of attachment. It is the desire and lust in regard to the 5 aggregates of attachment that is the attachment there. Stop here for a moment. So here they are talking about identity, Sakkaya. This identity means to identify oneself with the 5 aggregates, body, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. And these 5 aggregates are basically also body and mind. And this body and mind, we generally, ordinary people, we take it to be I and mine. And this, when a person becomes an Arya, the lower stage is stream entry, the first path. When the person listens to the Dhamma and understands, he attains right view. And with that right view, that person becomes the lowest Arya, the first path attainer. But after that, that person has to put in more effort to learn the Dhamma and practice the Dhamma. And then after some time, that wisdom will ripen and the path will turn to fruit, and that person becomes the first fruit attainer, Sotapanna. When that person attains the first fruit, three fetters are eliminated, and one of them is Sakkaya Ditthi, identity view. So here, so a normal person will identify himself with the five aggregates, but Sotapanna, he sees that these five aggregates are impermanent and a source of suffering. So he does not identify himself with the five aggregates, although he still has a self, but that self is not attached to this, is not linked to these five aggregates. So the origin of this identity is craving. Craving is the cause of the round of rebirths, and the cessation of identity is the remainderless fading away of this same craving. And this, okay, we continue. Lady, how does identity view come to be? Here, friend Visakha, an untaught ordinary person, Putujana, who has no regard for noble ones and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, who has no regard for true men and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, regards material form or body as self, or self as possessed of material form, or material form as in the self, or self as in the material form. Similarly, he regards feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, all the five aggregates as the self, or the self as possessed of these aggregates, or the aggregates as in the self, or the self as in these five aggregates. That is how identity view comes to be. Lady, how does identity view come not to be? Here, friend Visakha, a well-taught noble disciple who has regard for noble ones and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, who has regard for true men and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, does not regard material form as self, or self as possessed of material form, or material form as in self, or self as in the material form. Similarly, he does not regard feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as the self, or self as in these five aggregates, or these five aggregates as in the self, or self as in the five aggregates. That is how personality, this identity view does not come to be. So this identity view ceases when the ardent disciple he does not regard the five aggregates as the self, or as belonging to the self, or as being in the self, or the self as being inside these five aggregates. So he does not identify himself with the five aggregates. Lady, what is the Noble Eightfold Path? Friend Visakha, it is just this Noble Eightfold Path, that is, right view, right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right recollection, and right concentration. Lady, is the Noble Eightfold Path conditioned or unconditioned? Friend Visakha, the Noble Eightfold Path is conditioned. Lady, are the three aggregates included by the Noble Eightfold Path, or is the Noble Eightfold Path included by the three aggregates? The three aggregates are not included by the Noble Eightfold Path, friend Visakha, but the Noble Eightfold Path is included by the three aggregates. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood. These states are included in the aggregate of virtue or moral conduct, sila. Right effort, right recollection, and right concentration. These states are included in the aggregate of concentration, samadhi. Right view and right thoughts. These states are included in the aggregate of wisdom, panya. Lady, what is concentration? What is the basis of concentration? What is the equipment of concentration? What is the development of concentration? Unification of mind, friend Visakha, is concentration. The four Satipatthanas are the basis of concentration. The four right efforts are the equipment of concentration. The repetition, development and cultivation of these same states is the development of concentration therein. Stop for a moment. This concentration is samadhi. Here it says, what is the basis of concentration? This word basis, the Pali is nimitta. You can see also it is a sign. What is the sign of concentration? Samadhi nimitta. What is the sign of concentration? And it says the four satipatthana. I would translate the satipatthana as intense states of recollection or intense states of mindfulness are the sign of concentration. So these four satipatthanas are the sign of concentration. In other words, when you have concentration, these four satipatthanas are automatic. It is a sign of concentration. But if you say the four satipatthanas are the basis of concentration, it means that to attain concentration, you have to practice the four satipatthanas. This is also correct, because in the Satipatthana Sangyutta, there is a sutta I mentioned before concerning the cook who is supposed to be to know the taste of his master. So in that sutta, it is said that if you practice the four satipatthanas, the four intense states of recollection, it must ultimately result in concentration. It must lead to concentration, the jhanas. So you can also say the four satipatthanas are the basis of concentration, or you can say it's the sign of concentration. But normally the word nimitta is used as the sign. Four right kinds of the four right efforts, the four right kinds of striving are the equipment of concentration. That means you have to use these four right efforts to attain concentration. Lady, how many volitions are there? This word volition, sankhara, here is translated as formations, but I prefer the word volition. Generally, sankhara is volition. There are these three volitions, friend Visakha: the bodily volition, the verbal volition, and the mental volition. But lady, what is this bodily volition? Is kaya sankhara. Verbal volition is vachi sankhara. Mental volition is chitta sankhara. But lady, what is the bodily volition? What is the verbal volition? What is the mental volition? In breathing and out breathing, friend Visakha, or are the bodily volition. Applied thought and sustained thought are the verbal volition. Perception and feeling are the mental volition. But lady, why are in breathing and out breathing the bodily volition? Why are applied thought and sustained thought the verbal volition? Why are perception and feeling the mental volition? Friend Visakha, in breathing and out breathing are bodily. These states are bound up with the body. That is why in breathing and out breathing are the bodily volition. First one applies thought and sustains thought, and subsequently one breaks out into speech. That is why applied thought and sustained thought are the verbal volition. Perception and feeling are mental. These states are bound up with the mind. That is why perception and feeling are the mental volition. Let's stop here for a moment. This word volition is intention. Volition, the will. So, for the body to function, this the intention must be there. The intention of the body for the body to function, for the body to survive, to live. So for the body to survive, to live, you need breathing. Breathing is a condition to keep the body alive. So this breathing is the bodily volition. And verbal volition is the intention to speak. Before you can speak, the intention is this applied thought and sustained thought, because you must think first. Before, once you have the thought, then it breaks out into speech. That's why Thoughts are the verbal volition. Perception and feeling are the mental volition. Before your mind can work, the perception and feeling must be there. Perception and feeling, means consciousness. Consciousness, in other words, the mind must activate. Then only the mind can work. That's why these, you can see here, these three, the word volition is quite apt, quite correct. Lady, how does the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling come to be? Friend Visakha, when a monk is attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, it does not occur to him, I shall attain the cessation of perception and feeling, or I am attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, or I have attained the cessation of perception and feeling, but rather his mind has previously been developed in such a way that it leads him to that state. Lady, when a monk is attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, which state sees first in him? The bodily volition, the verbal volition, or the mental volition? Friend Visakha, when a monk is attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, first the verbal volition ceases, then the bodily volition, then the mental volition. Stop here for a moment. When a monk is attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, this is the cessation of consciousness. In other words, the six consciousness shuts down, and he appears to be a dead person. In other words, the body and mind is totally shut down, just like your computer. But it has to go in three stages. First, the verbal volition ceases. Verbal volition is the thinking ceases. Then the bodily volition, the breathing ceases. And then the mental volition, the perception and feeling or consciousness ceases, shuts down. But in the suttas, we know that this, when verbal volition ceases, that means the thought ceases, that is the state of the second jhana. In the first jhana, you still have vitaka and vichara, applied and sustained thought. But in the second jhana, this thinking ceases. That's why second jhana is called the state of the Aryan silence. The mind stops chattering. And then the bodily volition ceasing is the breath ceasing. And the breath ceasing is the fourth jhana. The fourth jhana. And then the mental formation ceasing is the perception and feeling and perception ceasing. That is Nirodha Samapatti. You can call it the highest state of concentration. So when the body and mind shuts down, it goes in this, it has to go in that order. You have to attain the second jhana, then the fourth jhana, then only attain this cessation. This cessation is also similar to parinibbana. That is why if we look into the sutta on the Mahaparinibbana, how the Buddha entered Nibbana, he had to go through these stages. Had to go to the second jhana, fourth jhana. Then from there he entered this cessation, entered Parinibbana. Lady, how does emergence from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling come to be? Friend Visakha, when a monk is emerging from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, it does not occur to him, I shall emerge from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, or I am emerging from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, or I have emerged from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, but rather his mind has previously been developed in such a way that it leads him to that state. Lady, when a monk is emerging from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, which states arise first in him? The bodily volition, the verbal volition, or the mental volition? Friend Visakha, when a monk is emerging from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, first the mental volition arises, then the bodily volition, then the verbal volition. Stop here for a moment. So when a monk emerges from this Nirodha Samapatti, this state of cessation of perception and feeling, first the mind has to commence working again. Consciousness must return, and after consciousness returns, and then the breathing starts. This breathing That means he emerges from the cessation, then emerges from the fourth jhana, then emerges from the second jhana, the evolution, the verbal evolution. So in the reverse order. Lady, when a monk has emerged from the attainment of cessation of perception and feeling, how many kinds of contact touch him? Friend Visakha, when a monk has emerged from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, 3 kinds of contact touch him. Voidness contact, signless contact, desireless contact. Lady, when a monk has emerged from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, to what does his mind incline? To what does it lean? To what does it tend? Friend Visakha, when the monk has emerged from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, his mind inclines to seclusion, leans to seclusion, tends to seclusion. Stop here for a moment. So, when this monk has attained this cessation of perception and feeling, he comes out of it, he should become an arahant. And then, after that, he only wants to be in seclusion because that state is so pleasant. He tends to want to meditate and go into that state. He will want to be aloof from society. In fact, I would say even if a person has attained the fourth jhana, the state is so deep and peaceful that after that also he would not want to mix with society. He will tend to go into seclusion also. Lady, how many kinds of feeling are there? Friend Visakha, there are 3 kinds of feeling: pleasant feeling, painful feeling, and neither painful nor pleasant feeling. But lady, what is pleasant feeling? What is painful feeling? What is neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, whatever is felt bodily or mentally as pleasing and soothing is pleasant feeling. Whatever is felt bodily or mentally as painful and hurting is painful feeling. Whatever is felt bodily or mentally as neither soothing nor hurting is neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Lady, what is pleasant and what is painful in regard to pleasant feeling? What is painful and what is pleasant in regard to painful feeling? What is pleasant and what is painful in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, pleasant feeling is pleasant when it persists and painful when it changes. Painful feeling is painful when it persists and pleasant when it changes. Neither painful nor pleasant feeling is pleasant when there is knowledge of it, and painful when there is no knowledge of it. Stop here for a moment. So, because feelings are impermanent, they keep changing. So, if you have pleasant feeling, if it persists, then we feel pleasant. But the moment it disappears, then it is painful. It is painful, and vice versa. And also, when we have this equanimous state, we are aware of it, then it is pleasant. But if you are not aware of it, then you maybe feel bored. Lady, what underlying tendency underlies pleasant feeling? What underlying tendency underlies painful feeling? What underlying tendency underlies neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, the underlying tendency to lust underlies pleasant feeling. The underlying tendency to aversion underlies painful feeling. The underlying tendency to ignorance underlies neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Lady, does the underlying tendency to lust underlie all pleasant feeling? Does the underlying tendency to aversion underlie all painful feeling? Does the underlying tendency to ignorance underlie all neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, the underlying tendency to lust does not underlie all pleasant feeling. The underlying tendency to aversion does not underlie all painful feeling. The underlying tendency to ignorance does not underlie all neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Lady, what should be abandoned in regard to pleasant feeling? What should be abandoned in regard to painful feeling? What should be abandoned in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, the underlying tendency to lust should be abandoned in regard to pleasant feeling. The underlying tendency to aversion should be abandoned in regard to painful feeling. The underlying tendency to ignorance should be abandoned in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Lady, does the underlying tendency to lust have to be abandoned in regard to all pleasant feeling? Does the underlying tendency to aversion have to be abandoned in regard to all painful feeling? Does the underlying tendency to ignorance have to be abandoned in regard to all neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, the underlying tendency to lust does not have to be abandoned in regard to all pleasant feeling. The underlying tendency to aversion does not have to be abandoned in regard to all painful feeling. The underlying tendency to ignorance does not have to be abandoned in regard to all neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Here, friend Visakha, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a monk enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought, with delight and pleasure born of seclusion. With that, he abandons lust, and the underlying tendency to lust does not underlie that. Here a monk considers thus, when shall I enter upon and abide in that base that the noble ones now enter upon and abide in? In one who thus generates a longing for the supreme liberation, grief arises with that longing as condition. With that he abandons aversion, and the underlying tendency to aversion does not underlie that. Here, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, a monk enters upon and abides in the fourth jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure, and perfect purity of mindfulness and equanimity. With that he abandons ignorance, and the underlying tendency to ignorance does not underlie that. Let's stop here for a moment. So, when we experience pleasant feelings, worldly pleasant feelings, that means worldly pleasant feelings arise because of seeing a beautiful form, or hearing a beautiful sound, or smelling a nice odor, or tasting good food, or having a pleasant touch. So that type of worldly pleasures, when we experience it, the underlying tendency to lust arises. And vice versa, if we get pain because of contact at the 6 doors, then aversion arises. We feel repelled by the pain. But when this neither painful nor pleasant feeling arises, we tend to be ignorant of it. However, in the case of meditative absorption in the jhanas, it is different. Here is very clear. When a monk enters the first jhana, he abandons lust, and even the underlying tendency to lust is not there, because the mind is so strong and also very clear. So sometimes some people, they try to discourage people from entering the jhanas or enjoying the bliss of jhana, because they say you can be attached to it. But here you can see very clearly that when you attain the jhanas, there is not the tendency to lust for it. So you cannot say of the jhanas as what you say of the worldly pleasures. Also, when you have the longing for liberation, you grieve for liberation. But in that type of grief, there is no aversion for it, because you know it is something good. And when a person attains the fourth jhana, the mind there is perfect purity of sati and upekkha, perfect purity of mindfulness or recollection, and equanimity, and the mind also is so clear and strong that the mind is so clear there is no ignorance. Ignorance also does not underlie that. Lady, what is the counterpart of pleasant feeling? This Pali word counterpart, patibhaga, is similar or resemblance. Here it says counterpart. What is the counterpart of pleasant feeling? Friend Visakha, painful feeling is the counterpart of pleasant feeling. What is the counterpart of painful feeling? Pleasant feeling is the counterpart of painful feeling. What is the counterpart of neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Ignorance is the counterpart of neither painful nor pleasant feeling. What is the counterpart of ignorance? True knowledge is the counterpart of ignorance. What is the counterpart of true knowledge? Deliverance is the counterpart of true knowledge. What is the counterpart of deliverance? Nibbana is the counterpart of deliverance. Lady, what is the counterpart of Nibbana? Friend Visakha, you have pushed this line of questioning too far. You are not able to grasp the limit to questions. For the holy life, friend Visakha, merges in Nibbana, culminates in Nibbana, ends in Nibbana. If you wish, friend Visakha, go to the Blessed One and ask him about the meaning of this. As the Blessed One explains it to you, so you should remember it. Then the lay follower Visakha, having delighted and rejoiced in the nun Dhammadina's words, rose from his seat, and after paying homage to her, keeping her on his right, he went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and told the Blessed One his entire conversation with the nun Dhammadina. When he had finished, the Blessed One told him, the nun Dhammadina is wise, Visakha. The nun Dhammadina has great wisdom. If you had asked me the meaning of this, I would have explained it to you in the same way that the nun Dhammadina has explained it. Such is its meaning, so you should remember it. That is what the Blessed One said. The lay follower Visakha was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So this is another very important sutta. There are many important things here. First it talks about identity view, Sakkaya Ditthi, how it comes about. It comes about when we identify ourselves with the 5 aggregates of attachment, body, feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. And then it talks about the 3 volitions, the bodily volition, verbal volition and mental volition, and how you have to go through these different states to attain the highest, which is the cessation of perception and feeling, the highest attainment. And then the underlying tendencies for worldly pleasures that we enjoy, there is a tendency to lust for it, but not in the case of the jhanas.